Welcome back. Hey, no show Tuesday. What's up with that, man? Did anybody even notice? I'm back again. It's week 10. The Thursday show, the Thursday game, I meant, was about sort of what I expected coming out of it. Thought actually both teams would have a little more offense, and that's kind of the theme of the show tonight. I don't know if everybody checks those out. The little blurbs, the titles or the subtitles, I guess you would say, of the shows. They make us type something in, so I was trying to type something that has something to do with it. But I said I hope that wasn't foretelling. I hope that this is not going to be a low scoring week. We've had a few high scoring weeks all around the league. And it seems like we're due for one of those bunk sort of not exciting, not good for fantasy type of weeks. I hope it doesn't happen. But Thursday definitely was that. So welcome. I am Guess. This is Answers by Guess. We're going to be doing week 10 here. I was supposed to start at 9 o'clock, but I want to get it started early. Hopefully I can get done early. No shame in the truth. I started watching TV shows out in the early 2000s called The Shield. I'm sure people know about it, especially if you're my age. Some people probably watched it. I typically don't like shows like that, not cop shows, but I typically don't like shows where like each episode is like a new sort of story, and it's not quite that. Like I don't like CSI, and I don't like those type of shows. And I don't know, I'm kind of into it. I'm gonna watch at least this first season and see if I want to do the other like 8 or whatever else they got. So I'm gonna do that tonight, because tomorrow's gonna be nothing but football starting off early in the morning. So that's what I talked about. Denver continues to get by very slightly, and they're not beating good teams. They've beat a couple good teams. If Kansas City can, which they probably will, I would not be surprised if they catch them in this division. I know that we're all not quite haters of Kansas City, but people root for the underdogs, and we want to see somebody new in there. And if the Chargers can keep winning, Denver can keep skinning by. As of right now, Kansas City's not in the playoffs, but Denver's got to do something a little bit better. I did like to see Pat Bryant got involved. Troy Franklin is doing what I thought he would do in the beginning of the season. Wasn't huge, but he outscored once again Cortland Sutton, and it's just sort of what I saw coming. So we'll see if that keeps on going. The Raiders, is it Geno? It's got to be, but he played on the injured ankle late or whatever it was, and it's Dante Thornton. Like, why do they not have Terrace Marshall anymore? Dude's just sitting on the Eagles. I mean, they're not using Beck. It's just ugly. And Brock Bowers, I mean, this just goes to show it's the ebb and flow. How many people were expecting more out of him this week? It's just the way it goes. It was a tough defense, and that's sort of what we have to focus on with a couple guys that we're going to talk about. Had huge weeks last week, and they're not playing the cupcakes this week. So let's get into that. First, a bonus edition. I didn't see that coming. 5 Guys for Your Eyes. There was no Tuesday show. Tuesday we'll have 5 Guys to Despise. I told you that we'd be focusing on that, but we did a Sunday bonus edition of 5 Guys for Your Eyes. These are 5 guys that you should be putting your eyes on before this week. Just in case something happens, or just in case you have an empty bench spot, you throw them in there just in case, to get ahead of it, because it might not pop this week, but it could pop in the future. So let's see what we got. We got a layup. This one's a layup because JCM just looks terrible. He is not productive. Can't get much done. I don't like Chris Rodriguez, and this is somebody that we all know. This is why he's a layup coming in at number 5. He's just somebody. The JCM thing, they play Miami next week. This week's not going to be good for them, but with the quarterback situation, the wide receiver situation, they're going to need to look to get him more involved because although he's been involved, they keep wanting JCM to be that guy, and he continues to just not be productive. We'll see if Miami next week could change that. It's the only reason he's on this list because he's probably available. And if JCM falls on his face again this week, you could see a big Chris Rodriguez game next week against Miami. So get him now and just hold him, and we'll wait and see how this week goes. Number 4, Michael Wilson, blast from the past. This guy was one of my first ever, I think, 5 guys for your eyes. I think this is 3rd year. When he was a rookie, absolutely loved him, and he ended up getting hurt. Quarterback situation was always nonsense in Arizona. It still is. But I do see him slowly starting to build a little bit of something. I think last week's big game with Harrison and Trey McBride's been on a roll. I do think that sort of starts to put a little extra emphasis on those two for the defense. And Michael Wilson's got a ton of skill. I absolutely loved him as a rookie. Didn't quite happen, but you remember, I wish Rob was here. I'd ask him this question, but he's not, so I'm going to ask all of you. Remember back in the day, rookie wide receivers, it was always the year 3 wide receivers that we would put a bullseye on in fantasy. It was like, oh, who's the wide receiver who's in their 3rd year? That's the guy we got to target. So that kind of went out the window. And now we only want them when they're rookies. And if they stink as a rookie or amazing as a rookie, we kind of forget about them. I think that's where Michael Wilson kind of is. They could use that second guy. He's been involved, hasn't really flashed his full potential, or maybe he has. And then that's why he's on a 5 guy for your eye list, because he's just never going to do it. But Trey Benson's coming back, and I think that's going to help the wide receivers as well once he gets back in the game, because the other, I told you a long time ago, I think they were one of my first entries to 5 guys to despise. Just forget about those Arizona running backs. No more DeMercado questions, no Carter questions, no Bam Knight questions. It's just they all kill each other. Trey Benson comes back. They get some continuity. I think that's going to help. And listen, Brissett, he's doing all right. Now, also, we got to remember, it was against who last week? Dallas. So we all saw that game. We all say, ooh, they look good. But the Dallas defense is terrible. So we have to take it with a grain of salt. Number 3, Devon Vele. I remember as a rookie last year for the Broncos, he had an amazing week 1. Then he got hurt. I was very surprised that Sean Payton traded him away, because he was Sean Payton's darling in the draft. And last year as a rookie, when they got him in there and put him into the starting lineup right away, it was a surprise. Everybody was thinking Marvin Mims, but now he's going to the Saints. Saints don't have Rashid Shaheed anymore. He's going to step right up into that role. He's got a ton of skill. He's big. He's fast. So this is somebody to keep your eye on. I'm sure he's out there. I'm actually starting him this week because my wide receivers are absolutely decimated. I lost Mike Evans long ago. Ricky Pearsall, you might as well just nail the coffin. And I got Tet, who's probably not going to play. We'll see with his hamstring. Rice is on bye, so I'm throwing him out there. My wide receivers this week are a joke, but it is what it is. And I think the Saints will be throwing a ton. And that's sort of what you want, stepping into that Shaheed role. He's also a bit more of a possession type of guy than Shaheed, along with the length and the speed. So a name to know, a guy to keep your eye on. Number 2, Kyle Williams. I'm breaking the rules, and I don't care. He was a 5 guy for your eye in the very beginning of the season. He's a rookie. His playing time has been sparse, for lack of a better term, non-existent, one might say, but no booty. And I know last week was the Demario Douglas show, and we like Pop Douglas. He's He's done this before, years past. But Kyle Williams is a different beast. He's like a young, and I say young, I mean early career Brandon Cooks. If you haven't seen him play or watched any highlights in college or in the preseason, he reminds me a lot of Brandon Cooks. And Vrabel's talking him up, saying he's going to get some burn, and I'm actually probably going to start him this week if Tet doesn't go. My wide receiver room is decimated, but I'm still doing all right because if you got good players all around, they can carry one another. And I'm breaking the rules again, and I don't care. John Mechie for the Jets. Listen, the Jets situation is terrible. Justin Fields, he's probably going to start. Is that a good thing for wide receivers or a bad thing? I don't know. I still, as bad as people may want to claim Justin Fields is, I still think he's better than Tyrod Taylor. Garrett Wilson's coming back. Mechie has never gotten this opportunity to be a number 2 on a team. Now, they did trade for Adonai Mitchell, but they traded for Mechie a week before that. So he's been with them longer. He was with them throughout the bye week. I think Mechie, and I know this week's against the Browns, but the Browns you cannot run on. You can throw all over the Browns. I would not be surprised, and I almost wanted to pick up Mechie and play him over the other guys. I went with the other guys. I'm kicking myself every night in bed. But Mechie is just, and it's just because it's the Jets, and it's just because I don't know the quarterback situation, what it's going to be. It's probably going to be Fields, but still, the team is just a mess. But still, he's my number 1 because I do think that if all goes well, he could be a very nice PPR asset as the season, wraps up the second half. Let's start with the games. Atlanta Colts, that's Sauce Gardner. He'll be playing his first game, playing for the Colts. Excuse me. Their secondary has been terrible, so this was a great trade for them. Penix, he's going to play. He'll be better than Kirk Cousins was the last time Cousins played. I hope Bijan gets going. The Colts defense is really good at home, but they're not at home. They're in Germany. So it'll be a little bit different. I expect the offenses to do well here, but like I said in the beginning of the show, I'm a bit nervous that this week could be one of those down weeks where we get real low-scoring games. There might be 1 or 2 that score close to their over-unders, but I just have this bad feeling. I hope I'm wrong. I really hope I'm wrong because it's bad for fantasy when there's not a lot of points scored. We want a lot of things. We want pinball machines on our stat trackers. But for this one, it's always the main guys. Stay away from Mooney. I don't even care if Mooney does well in this game. If you're having to start Mooney, okay, you go with your gut. I have zero interest in him. And the other Colts guys, I know Pierce has been stringing a few things together. Downs has done a couple things here or there. But it's Pittman, it's JT, and it's Tyler Warren. And there's just no surprises. And the Europe games, I guess we have to call them the Europe games, they have been a tad bit lackluster this year. I talked about the last time. Rob and I used to talk about they wanted points scored. They've been a tad bit lackluster. So maybe we'll see some leniency either on the offenses to get that ball sort of moving. We'll see. Baltimore, Minnesota. That's J.J. McCarthy looking at his shadow. I said it a few weeks ago. Baltimore's defense was getting healthy. I really like Baltimore in this one. I know McCarthy looked good last week, but he looked good in the first quarter. I know he scored a rushing touchdown late. He's got the wheels. I said that in the beginning of the year. People know that. They watch college football and him at Michigan. But Baltimore's defense getting healthy, Lamar being back, the best defense is a good offense, and that's why Baltimore's defense was struggling so much because their offense was terrible. I worry a little bit about Minnesota in this one, but my heart wants J.J. McCarthy to do very well. I like Jordan Mason in this one. Um, Aaron Jones a little bit banged up last week. In my mind, he's lost it. There's a few questions I did see when I was putting the show together about Aaron Jones. I like Jordan Mason in this one. Feel like his style of rushing could be good to wear down Baltimore, but JJ McCarthy's going to have to play mistake free, and I worry because that Baltimore defense. I think they sort of showed it a little bit last week when they're healthy and Lamar's there. They play a bit better. For Baltimore, it really stinks. I see some people picking up Isaiah Likely. Probably not a bad idea. Lamar likes to look at them. There are better tight end options. One of them I'll talk about in a little bit. But what do you do with Zay Flowers, Rashad Bateman at this point in the season? It's the same boring 4 for 50 out of these guys. We had the huge week out of Zay Flowers in the beginning. We thought, okay, the cork's off. We're going to be drinking. No, that's not the case, but we do have to take it with a grain of salt because Lamar has been out. Minnesota defense has not been great. They haven't been the Minnesota defense we thought that they would be, that they typically are. I think if there's one player in this game that I would be okay sitting down, it's Mr. Stone for Hands. If you know who that is, then you know who that is. It's just I'm not sure it's going to work. I think the ship is just about sailed with him, but we'll see. Play your Addison, play your Jefferson. I think Baltimore wins this game. I think easily covers that spread if you're into that sort of thing. Patriots and Tampa Bay. I talked about Kyle Williams going to be technically the number 2 for the Patriots. Terrell Jennings showed up again last week. I had mentioned him on last week's show. Marty had called that out as well. He fills in really nicely. It's tough to run on Tampa, though. So the Patriots are going to have to throw the ball. That's why I like Kyle Williams this week. I like him to make a name for himself. Tez Johnson is a guy, obviously, that I'd be interested in. I think Egbuka could be the number 1 wide receiver this week because I do think he's had a few down weeks. He had the injury. Baker had a few down. They had the bye week. I think they're going to work to get him back involved. And since it's in Tampa Bay, I think Tampa Bay is going to play really, really hard in this one because this would be a great signature win for Baker. They are the favorites, and that should tell the story, right? The Patriots are America's darlings at this point in time. I talked about it in their game with Tennessee. I think Tampa Bay could take this one. I think their offense will be just fine. We're probably a week or so, maybe 2 away from Bucky being back, so that's going to be nice to see as well. Jacksonville, there's Jacoby. Will he play? There's the neck, Davis Mills. He wasn't too terrible. And the Jacoby Myers thing, we'll see. He probably knows 30% of the playbook. Houston defenses, they're just ridiculous. They were on the 5 guys for your eyes, I think, real early in the season. And they might be the top defense in football right now statistically. And as bad as their offense has been, that's remarkable when you think about it. I just said the best defense is a good offense. Their offense has been absolutely terrible. So could Davis Mills be worse than CJ Stroud? Probably not. And since they're at home, I think that their defense will allow their offense to be a little bit better. I am playing against Nico Collins, so good things usually happen for the players that I'm playing against. ETN worries me a little bit in this one. I think Parker Washington, I think if Houston's smart, they look to take him out of the game. He's their number 1 wide receiver until Jacoby gets the full playbook. But I'm very surprised that I wish I had one of those telestrators or whatever. I wish I could circle. I'm very surprised that Jacksonville's the favorite here. And I think a lot of that has to do with Davis Mills. But if people actually paid attention, CJ Stroud has not been very good this year. And Nick Chubb banged up. They said that they're going to get Woody Marks more involved. So if you miss that, this could be a good game for Woody Marks. He hasn't really had a really, really good one in a while. This could be one. And I kind of feel like he's ready for that ebb. Cleveland Jets, we sort of talked about it. I think that we see Shador Sanders in this one. It's going to be rainy. Dylan Gabriel hasn't been great. Um, is anybody here? Can anybody say hello? I got no comments. Nobody's saying hello. I want to know, do I got YouTube people? Do I got Twitch people? Do I got Facebook people? I'm zooming right through these. I'm about 20 minutes on board here, and we're getting through. It's fine with me, but give me some chit chat. I hope Justin Fields has a good game. Played well enough in the last game. It was an easier matchup. You can pass on Cleveland. They're a pass funnel defense. You cannot, what's up, Jeremy? You cannot run very well on them. So Brees Hall worries me a little bit. But he can catch passes. Same with Davis out of the backfield, who is worth a pickup. Braylon Allen will be back later on. But I think this is going to be, I think we're going to see some John Mechie. I think that I'd be surprised if we see Adonai Mitchell, but we'll see John Mechie and Garrett Wilson be back. And I think that's going to help Justin Fields. Look at that over-under. And because of the way I feel about this week and the way I feel about these teams and these quarterbacks, it just seems like such a low number, but I wouldn't be surprised if they hit like a 33, something like a 20-13 type of game. I don't take unders. Unders are no fun. You get mad when people score. That's not fun. But under would not surprise me in this one. I really wouldn't want to play anybody in this game. I have to play Justin Fields. My quarterback situation is a whole nother story. Somehow my team's right there in the thick of it. What is this week? So I'm 6-3. So it's pretty good. But for this one, Judkins, because you can run on them and he's healthy now, so you keep him in the game. And Njoku, of course, Fannin a little banged up. I think that's about where we draw the line. Hold on one second. Got somebody telling me something. I think that's about where we draw the line. Jeremy, how's your Saturday night going? Anybody else? It says we got a bunch of people in here. Jeremy, you're not logged on 7 different computers, are you? I just got to write this person back. So sorry. This is why it's good to have Rob or somebody with me, because they could nonsense with you. All right. What was I saying? For Cleveland, the wide receiver situation, I think the Bond's out, but Tillman's coming back. So Tillman is somebody who's interesting. If he's sitting out there and you're dying for a wide receiver, we'll get to some of those questions later. People were. And it looks like mine looks with Mechie and Kyle Williams and those type of guys being the best available. Cedric Tillman is worth a shot in this one. It's not going to be too windy. It's going to be rain. And rain helps wide receivers very much so, as long as they have good enough hands to catch a relatively wet football. There he is. Shuff Shuck Show. I like what I see out of him. I like what I see of him. I like what I see of him enough to put Devon Vele on my 5 guys for your eyes. Last week, Carolina beat Green Bay. You know why? Green Bay beat themselves. They play down to their competition. They start slowing things down. They don't push. And you know what? I was happy. You know why I was happy? Because I have Carolina over 5.5 wins on the season, and that was win number 5. So I only need one more. Probably going to be this week. Their defense has been playing lights out. If Tet does not play, Xavier Legette is a good draw. But Dowdell's been running everybody over. Dowdle. And I think Chuba will actually have a pretty good game. I know he's been demoted. But this seems like a game Chuba typically has some success. And especially if they get out to a good lead. But I like that guy that you're looking at right there. I like his poise in the pocket. I like his footwork. He gets the ball out quick. He's got a rocket. Why? Pay attention to him this week. If you can somehow watch this game, I know of all the games there is to watch this one. I like how he plays football. Olave should get a ton of targets in this one. He really loved Rashid Shaheed. He was peppering him like crazy the past 2 weeks. But we'll see. Maybe that goes to Devon Vele, or maybe Olave gets back in the mix. But watch the Tet situation, and if you're dying at running back, I feel like Chuba's got a shot in this one. I'll get to your question in a minute, Robert. There he is, last week's hero. Listen, if your trade deadline did not pass, this whole week you should have been trying to trade Kyle Monangai. You should have been. Will he ever have a really good game? Yeah, probably. Will he ever get 198 yards again? Probably not. They do not play Cincinnati every week. Go back and watch some of his runs. Cincinnati's one of the worst rush defenses, worst overall defense. He should have been tackled, I would probably say, and I'm exaggerating, but if you put all of his rushes and everything else together, he probably should have lost an average of 10 yards for every single one of them. And I'm not discriminating against him. He was a name that we gave out early in the season because for whatever reason, Roshan can't stay healthy. We started talking up this guy. He's a draft pick of them. They want him to succeed. Swift's probably going to play. It's going to be tough against the Giants, relatively tough to rush against. But this was the week to trade Kyle Monangai. After that big game, if you owned him, you should have been looking to move him. But I know how it goes. People fall in love. 198 yards. He scored me like 50 points. I have to keep him. There's no way he's ever leaving my side. Sometimes we got to cut the cord, so to speak. And I don't think he'll ever reach that number again. Prove me wrong, Kyle. I would love it. And I'm not saying you suck. What I'm saying is Cincinnati defense sucks. For the Giants, I thought Slayton would score a touchdown last week. Maybe I was a week early. Mr. Wonder Bread, bologna sandwich. I like Tracy in this one against the Bears. You can rush on them pretty well. Bears defense typically plays a little better at home. They're a little banged up still in the secondary, getting healthier. So Dart will use the ground. Tracy will use the ground. DJ Moore had a really good game, probably his best one of the season. I think it's a Rome Odunze game. If you've been sitting Rome, and especially after Rome with 0 points last week, this game is the mistakes we make as a whole, as a fantasy community. One, a guy has a big game that we picked up off a waiver wire and played in desperation, or we spend a ton of fab money on him after because nobody picked him up. Nobody watches Answers by Guests and sees Five Guys for Your Eyes and knew to pick up this guy in week 2. And he's our dude now. That's mistake one. Mistake one should be had him on your team, play him last week against Cincy, sell him, trade him. Mistake number 2, Rome Odunze gets 0.00 points in week 9, and we bench him. I think you play him this week. I think Rome Odunze is going to have a really big game, something like we saw the first few weeks of the season. I think he'll be back. And with the Loveland thing too, Komet, I think is going to play, and that's going to eat into him a little bit. We can't overreact, good or bad. We've learned this. 1 minute. Somebody's coming down. What's going on, Noah? Rob's not on with me. But you could just say hello to people if you want. They can hear you.
Hello.
But they can't see you. There he is. How come you're not in bed?
I don't know.
Well, you better go up and get to bed so I can finish this. All right? Good night.
Bye, Daddy.
Love you. See ya.
See ya.
All right, Bills, Miami. Bills typically struggle when they have to go down to Miami. What's up, Ruben? I'll get to all these live questions really quickly. I'm not ignoring you. They typically struggle when they go to Miami. The news of Miami is Tua is not long for them. We'll talk about Arizona in a minute, but there's been talk of a Tua Kyler sort of swap. I think Kyler should just go play baseball for the Athletics. Um, and maybe Tua should go to Arizona. But I think that'll fire him up a little bit in this one. I don't think his teammates are as down on him as the organization. I think that's going to lift up the team a little bit, and it's the division rival. I would not touch the Bills -8.5. They typically don't play amazing when they go down to Miami. Before the Bills, Cook was a little banged up. People were grabbing Ray Davis, but I think Cook is going to be okay if I'm not mistaken. Tell me in the comments if I'm wrong. And a lot of people wanted to grab Kincaid this week because maybe they lost out on Kraft or missed out on some of the other guys. We'll talk more about that in a minute as well. But I think Shakir continues to just really be the only guy that I really trust for the Bills as far as pass catchers goes. And for Miami, I'm 100% okay with Waddle in this one. Is there anything else? Dulcich. What a great call from Marty weeks ago. He was what the heck? I forget what it was called. Whenever Marty comes up with his bonus on the five guys, Greg Dulcich out of nowhere from the Broncos. Tool was looking for him quite often. You're not. But if you are dying at tight end like that, this is a good game for that because the Bills can be beat with the tight end. I'm thinking Miami keeps this one close. The Bills are behind the Patriots, but in the driver's seat for a playoff spot. This game's going to be within 6 points. Correct. We'll see if I'm wrong Tuesday. There will be a Tuesday show, but I think Miami keeps this one close. I really love Achane in this one. Next one, Arizona, Seattle. Look at those two quarterbacks, Darnold and Brissett. This is going to be the toughest game. I said it in the comments to somebody that Brissett has had this season. The toughest defense he's played, and he's playing it on the road in Seattle. But also on top of that, guess what? Darnold had that huge game last week. But this is going to be the toughest defense that he's played in a little bit as well, I think. And I think Arizona is going to give them some fits. They did really nice things against Dak Prescott last week. And I think that can continue to happen. Now, you're going to play JSN, Torrey Horton out. I don't think Shaheed's going to play. Maybe he is. But again, you're going to know 20, 30% of the playbook. But the good thing for Shaheed, he only really knows one play, and that's to go deep and chuck me the ball. So I do think if he does play, they'll take a shot and do those sorts of things with him. But we talked about Arizona. We talked about Michael Wilson. Jason, we'll get to your question. Ruben, you too in a few minutes. I'm just going to run through these games, get to the posted questions from the Facebook group, and then we'll get to those. Stay away from the running backs in Arizona. One player I really like in this, Rob, if you're still watching, I rarely recommend him. I did earlier. We'll also talk about that in a minute. I like Walker in this one. Not sure why. Just have a really good feeling about Kenneth Walker. I think last week they did a lot through the air. Sam was chucking it all over with great success. I think they turned to the ground just a little bit in this one. I think Walker gets going. Puka's coming back. The Rams are taking on the 49ers. Rams getting healthier. 49ers have the worst athletic trainer in football. They're saying that Ayuk is probably not coming back. They got a quarterback controversy now with Purdy. They still haven't paid Purdy. Am I correct, or did they pay him? Can somebody tell me, did he ever get a contract? Because I remember that was the talk last season, that he's still playing on the Mr. Irrelevant contract type of thing. And listen, if Mac Jones keeps the ship right, They may never pay Brock Purdy, and that would be a damn travesty. I don't think he's amazing. That's very well documented over our last however many seasons he's been in the league. I think he's a system guy. I think this Mac Jones is looking good in the system. Um, for the Rams, it's Puka. It's Puka, and if they get close, they're going to throw the ball at Devontae Adams within the 5-yard line. It's their favorite play. They do it 2 or 3 times, sometimes on a drive. So play both those guys. Kyron Williams as well. 49ers CMC. I could see them locking down on Juwan in this one. The 49ers have been doing things, and the Rams defense has been doing things. The Rams, I love it. We got another spammer, little spam bot, Streambo, Move it. I love it. Salted Hedge. I love when these guys show up. We had real people for a while coming from Twitch, but I'm glad that the spam bots are back. They're great. The Rams defense has been playing great. Would not be surprised if they give up a ton of points to the 49ers in this one. But not a ton, because I do think this is going to be a low-scoring week. We'll see. What's up, Niori? A couple games left, and then we'll get into the questions. Detroit at Washington. Washington has nobody. I think this is going to be a Gibbs week. That's why I put him there. I called last week. I said, I got a bad feeling. I don't think Gibbs is going to do much this week. He didn't do much last week. Minnesota's still decent against the run. Goff took advantage of them. Minnesota still won the game because in the first quarter, they didn't think McCarthy could beat them, and McCarthy beat them. They jumped out 14-0 early, and Detroit was playing catch-up after that. Their defense got it right. I think their defense plays well in this one. Detroit's a great defensive start. I'm not falling for the Jameson Williams anymore. He'd be a 5 guy. I despise 5 guys to despise just because – it's few and far between with him. And he had his good game last week. He had like 6 for 60 or something like that, and a touchdown. That's too many 6s in a row for me. I'm staying away. But Gibbs, I like Gibbs a lot this week. And, of course, you're playing Amon-Ra for Washington. I mean, if you've been playing Zach Ertz all year, kudos to you, but it's disgusting. And Mariota, I want nothing to do with Debo. Too big of a risk in game. JCM has been absolutely terrible. This game should be a steamroll, and it's not a division game, and I think that will allow it to be one. I just had to put A-Rod up there going against the Chargers. These are 2 teams who are in the playoffs at the moment, but neither one of them have looked – I know Pittsburgh just got a win, but neither one of them had looked great. Still waiting for Calvin Austin to catch a deep ball. They're sort of using them underneath, which is strange to me. Roman Wilson got put in the doghouse. So you could put that to rest. Orande, my call from long ago, is finally splashing, and he's America's heartthrob in fantasy football at tight ends. I think he looks to keep it going. The Pittsburgh defense has not looked great. They looked good last week, so maybe they turn the corner. But this one, I think I said it last week on the Sunday show. I was like, they should have put the Bills and Chiefs Sunday night, and they put, I think, was it the Washington game or was it the Dallas? It was the Washington, Seattle, right? It's just stupid, terrible choice. This was a good choice. This should be a really good game. Lad, a couple next week, probably get Hampton back, so I'm looking for that. Philly, Green Bay, my Packers. Packers are the favorites. That's merely because they're at home. However, they play up to their competition. And after the loss last week, I like their chances in this one. Saquon's healthy, so my favorite pickup of the week is relatively, and I use the word relatively with purpose, relatively null and void, Tank Bigsby. You will see Tank Bigsby more than you have this season, this week, and throughout the remainder of the season. They are not going to overwork Saquon. They have a repeat Super Bowl on their mind. A.J. Brown's just fine. Devontae Smith just fine. Throw them all out there, all your skill players. The only problem with Green Bay, they have a ton of them, and they lost one of them. And here's the biggest point, and I'm glad this was a Monday that I wanted to get to. People that lost Tucker Kraft, you're scrambling, you're looking. Now, a couple people ask questions, and I'm not sure if they're on the show. We'll get to that segment. But they're like, oh, I lost Kraft. Who do I pick up? They posted the guys they had 15 different guys that are just fine. That in any league I play in, they're on a team. Kincaid, people of those ranks. But my answer was Musgrave. And it's a real simple reason. Musgrave was drafted ahead of Kraft. Musgrave was the starter ahead of Kraft. Musgrave was successful as the starter. Musgrave got hurt. Kraft came into play. Kraft exploded in this system with their head coach and the scheme. Kraft is hurt. Musgrave's healthy. Could he get hurt again? He seems like he might be made of like fiberglass, not quite as shatterable as some of these guys, like a Sammy Watkins used to be. So hopefully he stays healthy. But Philly can be beat by the tight end. We've said that over and over. And Musgrave is going to hop right into that role. It's the play design. It's the offensive design. It's the playbook. He knows it, and he was a starter in it, and he had success in it. For me, if I lose Kraft, and I don't have like a list of guys that should be on fantasy teams already, or even if I do, I'm just picking up Musgrave. It's the same team. It's the same guy. It's, in fact, a guy who was thought to be better and was the starter for years before him, a year or two. And then he got hurt. So, to me, Musgrave can hop right in and do what Kraft was doing. He can run just as well. He can catch just as well. He's not a mirror image. Doesn't look the same. I will say Kraft put on a ton of muscle. And I don't think Musgrave's got the build like him. Kraft used to be a little bit more David Banner or whatever his name was than the Hulk. And he looked a little hulkish over these past few weeks scoring these touchdowns. But Musgrave will be just fine. And he's pulling player. I'm looking at this. If you lost Kraft, I think that's a perfectly fine pickup. I'd rather do that than some of these other guys on these other teams. So, questions. Jason asks, I'll get to all these live questions. I am not ignoring you. Thanks for sticking around if you are. Okay, two things. If Tech can't go, do you like Jacoby or Debo, who are on my bench to replace? And if not, who do you suggest from the wire? Jason, I'd say this all the time to you and pretty much anybody. I can't recommend Debo. I can't risk Debo in-game injury. He's just not going to be a recommendation for me. And Jacoby, he knows probably 30% of the playbook, and the defense that they're playing against in Houston and on the road in Houston is just super tough. So we will look at the suggestions on the next slide. First, we'll look at thing 2 here. Need to pick someone from one remaining running back slot. You have a none guy, keeping close eye on Swift plays. Otherwise, you can go roll with Walker, ETN, or do I grab and start Aaron Jones or DeMarcado? The answer to Aaron Jones or DeMarcado is absolutely no. I've been screaming for weeks, stay away from the Arizona backfield. You play DeMarcado, Michael Carter's going to go off. You play Michael Carter, Bam Knight did what he did. No. Aaron Jones, no. And I answered this question almost specifically, Jason, but you're still struggling with it. And I get that. You have to go with your gut. My gut out of those picks still is Walker. And I don't recommend him often, especially because Charbonnet steals the goal line TDs, it seems, almost every single time. But I got a good feeling about Walker this week, so that is my pick. Let's go to thing 1. I can't even really see these. Diami Brown, Slayton, Downs. I know somebody recommended Downs. You got Kirk, Coleman, Pierce, Tez Johnson. I tell you what, my favorite 2 of this is I like Slayton in this one because I think he will score the touchdown this week. I think I was a week early. I thought it'd be last week. And I like Tez Johnson. I think Baker's going to have a game. I think this is going to be a big game for Baker. They're going to be pumped up coming off the bye week. I like Egbuka and Tez Johnson to do some things. So those are my favorite two. And I definitely like them both over Debo and Jacoby. Antonio asks, hi, friends. Hey, friend. Do we play PPR, Dubs, or Shaheed? I'm just going to go with Dubs. Monday Night Magic. He's about as consistent as it gets. Shaheed with a new team. Browns or Lions. I'm going to go with the Lions. I think it's a very good matchup against Washington. I think their defense is starting to turn a little bit of a corner. They were shaky quarter one last week, but they got it figured out after that. Played very well and scored very well for fantasy purposes. The Browns, I like them, but if Fields can get some passes together with Wilson, and I do think Mechie plays well this week, they might give up less points than the Lions, but I like the Lions a little bit more to do something a little more special. In another league, Adams, Jefferson, Dubs, or Pittman, you need two. We went with Dubs before. Adams is only really used when they get close to the red zone or when they're in the red zone, technically even within the 10-yard line, not even just the red zone. But I'm going to go with Pittman and Jefferson. I'm going to go with the big dogs. I'm going to take a layup with those two. Leon, what's up, Leon? 2 for the show. Warren or Kincaid this week? I'm gonna go Warren. It's about as easy as it gets, right? Even keel. Warren, you know what you're getting. Kincaid, we don't have to worry about Knox or some other schlubs doing some things for Buffalo. Allen likes to run the ball. They were running with Cook. Cook was a little banged up. They'll get Davis involved. I'm gonna go with Warren. And that's the morning game too, so that'll give you something to root for. You're worried about Tet. I'm worried about him too. If needed, would you go with ETN, Aaron Jones, or Addison? Don't love it, but out of those three, I would go with Addison. I would definitely go with him over McMillan. ETN, I just don't like it going against Houston. And Aaron Jones, he's just off my recommendation list at this point in his career. From what I've seen he was banged up last week, and he only played half the game. And I don't think it gets any easier for him this week. And I like Jordan Mason this week. I think he's going to run with purpose. They'll ride the hot hand a little bit extra. But as right now, I'm sitting Tet in my leagues. I'm not even going to chance it. We don't like when a hamstring pops up on a Friday out of nowhere, especially with your young prize wide receiver one on a team that is building. I won't even say rebuilding. They're building to ascend at this point in time. Big win off of Green Bay. So I'm just going to play Addison, play it safe. I think that's the best thing to do. This was from Landon. He went with a pretty pink background. Who should I start as my RB2? Walker, Singletary, or Terrell Jennings? I think Walker. I just got a feeling about him this week, so go with it. Chris, what two RBs? Aaron Jones, Monongai, Judkins, Sharp, Rashad White. I'm going to go with Judkins and White. I know White plays against a tough rush defense for the Patriots, but hopefully they get him some balls out of the backfield. If you don't like that, I would want to default to Charbonnet. But I got a feeling about Walker this week. Like Walker's going to get some close ones and not Zach Charbonnet. Monongai with Swift being there. I root for the kid. We liked him very early on before anybody knew. But now everybody knows, and he's coming off a game against Cincinnati, and I think that we're expecting similar. I'm not. I think it'll be a little bit tougher for him on the ground. And with Swift back makes it even harder. It's not going to be Aaron Jones. So I'm going to go with Judkins and Rashad White. If you don't like White, pick your favorite of Sharp and Monongai. I'd probably go with Charbonnet in case he sticks with that red zone stuff. So that's what I had. Let's get back. Let's go all the way up to the top. Jeremy said hi. Jeremy said, I'm a bit annoyed. Knicks did nothing. Yeah, I'm wondering if it's a foretelling of the week. That's basically the subtitle of the show. The big weeks they play when the guys ahead of me. Well, Jeremy, good thing for you. It's one player, and it really doesn't matter. It's one player. And as weeks go on, and I watch my team specifically, but other teams as well, where one guy, like me a few weeks ago, Bijan didn't have a good game. I've had a couple zeros this year. I've had a couple guys scoring around a point, a little bit less, maybe a little bit more, and I still win. It's the beauty of fantasy. You can have one bad play, one player play bad. And as long as the rest of your team is good, you'll be just fine. Rob wants to ask Tyrone or Sharp. I'm going to go with Tyrone. He's the top dog. Wonder how Shaheed is in Seattle. He'll be good, and it'd be good if he was there a week sooner and Torrey Horton was out. Horton was starting to come on a little bit. Still a little bit of, lack of a better term, lightning in a bottle is what I'm looking for with last week and his 2 touchdown performance. Right place, right time type stuff. We love Torrey Horton, don't get me wrong. But with him being out this week, it would have been nice if Shaheed was there a week sooner. He won't know much of the playbook. It will be tough against the Arizona secondary. If he does play, he knows about 30% of the playbook, but he only needs 5%. So I wonder how he'll do. I think that he's sort of what they're lacking. The one shot book guy, the guy that Tyler Lockett used to be for them. Playing Barkley with Addison and DK as your wide receivers, looking for another RB. Vidal, Woody, Dubs, or maybe a sneaky ad. I'm going to go with Woody. I think Woody's going to have a nice week. It's been a while. It's been a while for Woody to have a nice week. Got Davis Mills in there at quarterback. He's not going to try and do too much. I don't even know if he can do too much. You can't see my head, but you can see my forehead. I'm going to go with Woody. The Vidal thing, he could, but he had that one good one. He's had a couple down ones. Dobbs is consistent. If you think that you are going to be in a close one, you might want to go with Dobbs, but I would go with Woody and shoot for it because it's time. He's due. Chubb's banged up. They're going to get him even more involved this week than they have been, they're saying. And I think the matchup is good against Jacksonville. And he's at home, and I think that's going to help him. Robert Torres is asking again, Kirk, Douglas, or Cooks? You own Brandon Cooks? Did you put an S there by mistake? And I imagine you're talking Pop Douglas. You know what? Because I think Kyle Williams is going to steal some of last week's Douglas thunder, I'm going to go with Kirk on this one. I'm going to go with Davis Mills, getting it to the sure-handed vet. I know he's got Nico there as well, but he's not as old as Christian Kirk, and I think that Davis Mills and him have had a few cups of teas this week. And or Juwan, Robbie got a lot of questions tonight. I love it. I'm going to go with Otten. I think that game's going to be a little more high scoring with the Patriots. Kamara, Aaron Jones, God, that's disgusting. Go to the waiver wire. Kamara is running in quicksand. Aaron Jones is bordering on Debo territory for me. I'm not even trying to be any type of way. I would look to the waiver wire. I'd rather play Devin Neal than Kamara. And, of course, Jordan Mason over Aaron Jones. If I had to pick out of either one of them, I'm going to pick Kamara, and that's simply because it's a little bit easier to run on Carolina. So maybe Shaf can get him going if he throws well through the air. Playing Baker, Caleb this week. I really think Baker's going to have one of the games like he was having earlier in the year. It's been a couple weeks. He's coming off the bye. He's going to be fired up for this one. They're at home. It's possible, Caleb's put a couple good ones together. But I think I would go with Baker. As good as the Patriots defense has been, the Giants have had. They might have the defensive rookie of the year and the offensive rookie of the year when it's all said and done. I think I would go with Baker over Caleb. I would just something to think about. I think that if the Bears can have it their way, they'll try and run Kyle and get Swift involved, and they got a bunch of different weapons on offense, which is all great things for Kaler, but I just think Baker's going to play with a little bit more of a purpose in this one, and I'd go with him. Ruben, if you're still here, thanks for sticking around. I love that you have joined us from YouTube. We've been trying to make a big push on YouTube. We've got a pretty nice sized family on Facebook. We've been doing this 9 years. In the past couple, we've been sort of stressing on YouTube. So if you could subscribe, hit the notifications, all that nonsense. You just made 2 trades. You traded Josh Jacobs and Dallas Goedert for Trey McBride, Jalen Warren. So which side did you get? They're actually both pretty good. If it were me, Josh Jacobs is getting touchdowns every week. Goddard is a bit of a roller coaster. McBride's been hot with Brissett, and Warren's really starting to heat up as well. Name sexiness value, I'd probably rather have the Trey McBride side, but I like both sides, if I'm being honest. And Ferguson for Cortland Sutton. If you got Ferguson, I think that you'll make out in that one. Sutton's sort of cooling down a little bit as Franklin's reaching where I thought he would be. I said it early in the year. I felt like he was going to be taking over the wide receiver 1 in Denver. Cortland's not dead, though. We can't judge anything off of this Thursday night game. He's not dead, but he's no longer, I don't think, their true number 1, and he's not Knicks' favorite by any means. And Pat Bryant is coming on. He was a 5 guy for your eye last week. So whatever side you got, I think you did all right. Those are 2 pretty good trades, whichever one's helped your team the best. One was running back and tight end for running back and tight end, but the other one, if you needed Ferguson or you needed Sutton, I think you did all right. Sutton, more of a flex play, and Ferguson, more of a tight end start. You currently have Nick Chubb, so you keep him on the bench or drop to pick up Mooney, Coleman, or handcuffs like Gainwell. Is Tank Bigsby available, Jason? He's somebody who I'd be looking to pick up. Did anybody, if you don't have an IR spot, did anybody drop Trey Benson? Probably not. I hope not. I hope they didn't drop Omari and Hampton because these guys are going to be back in the next week or two. But Tank Bigsby is really the one that I would be looking to pick up if he's out there. Ollie Gordon, I think, is probably going to be out or highly questionable this week. But the last one there, you joined us late. We had a 5 guys for your eyes, and my layup was CJ Rodriguez. So I think out of all of those, if Tank Bigsby is not available, I just love him to death, and I feel like he's finally going to start getting burned because they want to keep Saquon healthy. They saw in a quarter, 15 minutes of football, Tank Bigsby put up over 100 yards rushing the ball. It was absolutely ridiculous. He was just shot out of a cannon, a man possessed. And they're like, holy mackerel, we got to get this guy involved. Holy mackerel, I sound like I'm 79, 89 years old. But Rodriguez would be the guys out of the ones you named. Davis for the Jets is not bad as well. Braylon Allen will be back later in the year, but I think that Rodriguez, he's been involved, but I think that in next week with Rodriguez, if you didn't pay attention to that, they play Miami. So that's a good one. So if he shows well enough this week and JCM continues to fall on his face, you could be sitting on a nice piece. You currently, let's see what you got here. You currently have Jets, Davis, and Ayuk. Do I keep them both? Or Ayuk might not be back this year. If he's on your team and he's not in the IR spot, Golden's probably going to be out this week as well. Man, see, this is why I like that we started on Facebook and we're trying to add in YouTube so we could bring in some of these YouTube guys. If you are on Facebook, go to Fantasy Football Answers by Guests, Fantasy Football Podcast, and Advice Hub. Join the group. I want to see your waiver wire, Jason, because I feel like there might be a couple guys out there that you could pick up that might be gold, because these guys, they're out there, but none of them are much of anything for me. Corum sort of had his chance, didn't do much. Tootin, I definitely don't want Tootin for this week. He's not going to gain any value playing against Houston. Golden's banged up. Chubb's banged up. Gainwell's what he is. And Amari, I want no part of the Arizona backfield unless it's Trey Benson when he comes back. But if you don't have IR, I want to drop Ayuk. He's probably not coming back, but I want to see what else you might have out there. So if you do have Facebook, join the group. It's free. Will you trade Dak and Hunter Henry for Kelsey? You have Indiana Jones as your QB. You're looking to upgrade your tight end. Do you think Kelsey is going to be an upgrade over Hunter? I mean, so far, yes. He's playing like a youthful Kelsey, isn't he? But he's not even that guy quick to the goal line, underhand, scoop pass. That's Rice now. I feel like you're giving up too much for Kelsey. If anything happens to Daniel Jones, you're screwed. I feel like you could do better. Maybe get him to throw in something else. And also, again, please join Facebook because I want to see what's out there in your tight end waiver wire. I don't think Hunter Henry's terrible. I think he's had a few terrible weeks. He's going to have a few big weeks. Might even have a good one this week. But I feel like giving away Dak and Hunter Henry to get Kelsey. And I know some people only like the roster one QB, but if your QB waiver wire is thin and you lose Daniel Jones, you could have had Dak sitting there waiting. And really, in my mind, Kelsey is not too much higher than Hunter Henry for me. He is. He's a tier above, but he's not 2 tiers above. He's not Trey McBride. He's not even Oronde Gadsden, who's just jumped up there, which I love to see after making that call a few weeks ago. I don't hate it, but listen, here's the way I've been looking at trades. I said this to somebody in the Facebook group. If you are wondering about a trade that's being offered to you, let me take a drink. And you're wondering if you should do it, flip the tables. Say to yourself, if I had Kelsey, would I trade Kelsey to somebody for Dak and Hunter Henry? And if you say yes, then that must mean you like Dak and Hunter Henry more. Right? You got to sort of look at it from the other side of you. I think the person was talking about Dobbs and Brian Thomas Jr. And they were like, should I trade Brian Thomas Jr. for Dobbs? And I said, I think so. Thomas probably isn't going to play this week. This was a few days ago. Now we know he's not going to play. I said, also, Dobbs is just about as consistent as it gets for Green Bay wide receivers. But you got to look at it as if you had Dobbs right now, would you trade him to somebody else for Brian Thomas? I said, I probably wouldn't. And that means I value Dobbs more. So that means I should make this trade so I can get Dobbs. So I'm looking at this trade and I'm like, if I had Kelsey, would I trade Kelsey for Dak and Hunter Henry? I get it because I have Daniel Jones sitting there. But what if Daniel Jones turns back into Daniel Jones? That's what I'd be worried about. Last week we saw a glimpse of him turning back into Daniel Jones, didn't we? And what if this week against this Atlanta defense, who's pretty good, turns him further back to Daniel Jones? Now you're sitting there with Kelsey and 2024 or 23 Daniel Jones, and you could have had Dak. That's why I don't like it too much. Go with your gut. Who scores more fantasy points, McBride or JSN? This week, I say JSN. He's just way more involved. I mean, he's the league leader in yards and everything else. Jason, again, thanks for all the questions, Jason. One must be a wide receiver. Wandale, Bologna Sandwich, Robinson, Shakir, Tet. Is Teta? Are you talking about? You're already starting Rico, so it's Tet. He might not play. I don't like him to play this week. I don't think they're going to risk it. Vidal, Kamara. Oh, gosh. I hate all these guys. I play Shakir for sure. Tet, I can't play. Listen, he's a bologna sandwich, but if you're starving, sometimes there's really nothing better. And listen, the snow, I don't think that there's going to be like real snow. Maybe there is. I mean, Chicago is a little snowier than where I'm at in upstate, relatively upstate north of the city, New York. They're saying that there might be some flakes and things here into Monday. But I don't know if this can be crazy. And anyways, that helps wide receivers, just like rain. They know their route. They are going to be running and putting their foot in the ground milliseconds, if not a full second before the defender does. That will help them get open. He's sure-handed. So I'm playing those two. I'm playing Wandale. I'm playing Shakir. And you know what? I don't like it at all. He's a zombie in quicksand. But you can run on Carolina, and if they're smart, they will get him involved through the air, finally, for the first time this season. So I'll take a shot with Kamara. I'm going to go Wandale, Shakir, and Kamara. What a weird week, Rob. If you're still watching the show, I just recommended a couple times Kamara and Kenneth Walker. Strange week. Everybody, the Salted Hedgehog wants you to know I'm just giving him his airtime. Should you start JMO or K9? K9, I'm doing it this week. JMO is about as hit or miss as it gets. Don't fall victim to what happened to him last week. I got a good feeling about Kenneth Walker this week, Niori, and I typically don't recommend him because, I don't trust sometimes that he'll make it through. B, Charbonnet's the goal line back. I got a love affair with Charbonnet. But I think last week they were very pass heavy. Darnold was taking advantage of it. So I feel like the defense for Arizona is going to be aware of that. And I think Seattle's going to come in this one. Let's attack them on the ground. We showed off what we could do through the air. Let's flip the script. Let's zig when they zag. And that's why I like Kenneth Walker this week. Need help. Hopefully I can help. Who'd you sit? Ladd, Adams, Odunze, or Wow? This is tough. I think Odunze is going to have a really nice week. I think a lot of people are going to make the mistake that people make all the time. He got 0 points last week. I put him on my bench. Well, did you forget about all the other things he did well for you this year? I like Waddle going against Buffalo, and I like Ladd McConkey. I'm glad to see he finally came back to earth. Adams is the red zone guy. They get within the 10-yard line, and they're always taking a shot to him. That's all he really does. So if they could stop that, then they can hold him to less points than these guys. So I'm going to say that I will sit Devontae Adams and hope that Puka being back, maybe he gets a couple of those red zone targets when they're close. Are you fine starting Parker and ETN? I would start Parker over ETN. Houston's a real deal defense, man. Called it early on, and as bad as their offense has been, for the defense to be as good as it was and still is and has been this entire year, that says something. When your offense is terrible and your defense is keeping you in games, I mean, that think about Cleveland a couple of years ago. Their offense was absolutely terrible, but their defense was ridiculous. It won them some games. Their scores were like a lot of times in the low double digits, in the teens, sometimes in the singles. That's a real deal defense, and I think Parker can play inside, play outside, run out the backfield, and he's their number one for this week. And ETN on the ground, he'll do some things. He can catch passes in the air. If I don't have any better options, okay. But I think if I'm starting one or the other, I would go with Parker. Seeing the weather in Green Bay Monday night, it's going to be cold and windy. Do I play a triple stack of Hurts, AJ Brown, Devontae, or play Waddle over one of them? Here's the problem, Michael. Thanks for joining us. Or me. I always say us because I'm wishful thinking. I wish Rob would be here or Marty. If you sit Devonta, he's going to go off and Brown's going to do nothing. If you sit Brown, it's flip flop. I like Waddle this week. I would be paying attention to the wind, the weather forecast, every second leading up until that Miami game kicks off. Things change, and they change quickly. The cold, I don't worry about. The wind can hurt, especially Devonta's game, because he's that deep guy. So I feel like if I sit anyone, it's going to be Smith. So keep an eye on that because I like Waddle this week. Keep an ie on that. Smith would be who I'd sit. I'd hope and pray that A.J. Brown does better than him. You should put your video top left so the questions don't block you. I like when they block you. I want people to see your questions, but it's a great strategy. I could. I have it down here. I could probably do it right now, actually. Let me see. Maybe not. Oh, here I go. Whoa. Look at you, Jeremy. I just levitated. Now I'm up here. That's good. I kind of like being blocked, though, but I guess this is better. Then you can see my mug. Me too. Bologna sandwich, Downs, Myers, or Pierce. I'm going to go with, oh, God, having Downs and Pierce in there. It's just like, I'm going to go white bread and the white guy. I'm going Wan'Dale Robinson and Alec Pierce. For whatever reason, I trust Pierce to stay more involved over the middle and things like that. Deep threats. There's one or two deep shots a game, a couple over the middle. I'm liking him a little more than Downs this week. People love Downs. I'm not a big Downs guy. Maybe I'm biased. Myers just doesn't know enough of the playbook for me. It's going to be a very, very tough game. So I'm going bologna sandwich and Alec Pierce, Wan'Dale Robinson. As a Barkley owner with Benson, Brown, JCM, Vidal, Woody, Hold, Tank. Dude, I dropped JCM this week and picked up Tank. And I'm not dropping Tank. I think that his usage has been zero until they had to use him. I think they liked what they saw. If I'm running Philadelphia or I'm coaching Philadelphia, I'm the owner. Now I'm hidden behind this thing. Now I got to slide over this way. You got me all sorts of messed up. Philly, I'm like, okay, Barkley's our dude, right? We want to win a Super Bowl. And we got this other guy who gets over 100 yards in less than 15 minutes of play. I think we should use him. What do you guys think? Oh, yeah, good. So I think Tank Bigsby is going to be valuable even with a healthy Saquon Barkley. Many teams use two running backs. Philly has sprinkled in a guy here or there, but nobody is as good as Tank Bigsby, and I'll die saying that. You all know, Jeremy specifically. I've loved him since day one. He had a poor rookie season. I still loved him. Came back the second year. I said, this year is going to be the year. And he did it. He was amazing. He got hurt towards the end, wound up in Philly, one of the worst places to be in until now, until they realize Saquon is not made of steel and they've got to protect him. And when you have a guy that can do the things Tank can do, there's not many better options. So I dropped JCM. Even with the Miami game next week, I said, I don't care. Don't care. He's shown me nothing. He had just one good game. All I had to do was watch him. He gets 2 yards a carry, it seems, maximum. I would be holding Tank. Yeah. Trey Benson will be back. You got Chase Brown, Vidal, Woody. I'm holding Tank. So you have, 7 running backs? And if and when you have to, here's what you do. JCM, if he goes off next week against Miami, you trade him before the bye week to somebody else and you get rid of him if you could still do trades. But if I have to drop somebody for a wide receiver or something, JCM would be the first to go. Vidal would be second. Trade question. Domo. What's up? Welcome from YouTube. Half PPR, 2 flex league. I was offered Jamar, Rome, Kyron for JT and CMC. Oh, your choice of who? Good. You don't have to give up both. And Olave. Wide receivers are GP, Downs, Olave. You lost Evans, Hill, Tucker. Yeah, I mean, I think that's okay. I think Jamar is an upgrade, of course, over Olave, so that's good. I think you're obviously it's a downgrade with JT and CMC. If it were me, I'd be giving up CMC because I wish no harm on anybody, but I know that JT's been hurt before as well. But they use the crap out of CMC. And they still have a bye week 14. So you would basically dodge that. So I'd give up CMC and Olave, and I think you'd be all right. I think that's what I'd do. What I'm seeing, only 20%. Yeah, I'm not worried about it anyways. Listen, snow's not a problem unless it's like, and they're clearing it out as well, and it's good for receivers. It's good. Can the quarterback get them the ball? Sometimes it's hard. The ball drops on the ground for whatever reason. It gets some ice on your hand. You're throwing. It's tougher. Rain and snow help the wide receivers. They know their routes. The defender doesn't. And it's just that little edge sometimes is a beneficial one. But Domo, I just want to go back to you real quick. I think I would do that. My wide receivers have been dying as well. And that's a good trade. You're getting two wide receivers. Or are you getting the other one? See, this is where I was offered. So you were offered those guys. If you're getting those two, and all you have to give up is Olave, and then you're getting rid of CMC and getting Kyron, I would be okay with that trade. It's helping your wide receivers. Roma Dunze is about to have a good week. All right. So an hour 20, not bad. Before 10 p.m., I'm done. You got an early game tomorrow, 9:30 Eastern time from Germany. Hopefully we see some points. The Europe games really haven't been too many points. I hate. Now I got to move this thing, and I can't move this thing. Answer by guess thing. I wish I had telestrator, whatever it's called. I can't even move that down, so I got to figure this out. It doesn't matter. If I want to, I'll just hide behind this. But there hasn't been a lot of points in Europe. Maybe there will be tomorrow. But I got a bad feeling about this week. being a low scoring week. We'll see. I'll see you Tuesday. Those of you that joined from Facebook, thanks as always. You're part of the Facebook Answers by Guest family. Those of you joining us from YouTube, if it's your first time, hopefully you like the video. Subscribe to the channel so you're notified whenever we go live. And I say we, not because I'm fat like two people, but because typically there's another person with me. Even though more often than not, I've been by myself this year. But it's Answers by Guests with the inside scoop from outside the box. Good luck this week.